Hi, welcome to the late night interview with your host, Saida Hicks. Today we have a special guest with us. Unstuck in time, here's Billy Pilgrim. Okay, so hi Billy, how are you?
Good. Thank you.
All right, so I want to start off with learning a little more about you. How was your life before you were unstuck in time?
Well, I was born in 1922 in Ilium, New York, and I was funny looking. I was tall, and I was shaped like a Coke bottle. After my childhood, I enrolled myself in the Ilium School of Optometry in New York, and I became engaged to the daughter and of the founder and owner of the school. And after my first semester, I was actually drafted into World War II, where my father died while I was fighting in the war. And I was honorably discharged, and after that, I suffered from a mental collapse.
So how was life after your mental collapse?
Well, when the mental collapse happened, I was immediately rushed to the hospital where they treated me. And then when I was released, I married my fiance, and I didn't quite yet finish my education because I didn't go back to school. But with the help of her father, I got to start my own business. And I became rich and we had two beautiful children, a son named Robert and a daughter named Barbara.
Okay, so I have a list of questions that readers wanted me to ask you, so I'm just going to jump right into the story. Why was it hard for you to write this book? This is the how do you say it?
Tralfamadorians?
Tralfamadorians. Have anything to do with this?
Well, while I was in World War II, I saw many traumatic things, such as the bombing of Dresden and things like that. And the aftermath of that made it hard for me to like recollect my mind. It was so disturbing and all the things that I've been through. But my lifetime was an entire blur to me. I wasn't able to control what time period I was in, where I was, and my child actually thought I was senile because I was involved in this plane crash, and only me and the co-pilot survived. But I knew that wasn't the case because these things were happening before that even occurred. And I also knew the trip Almondorians had nothing to do with it because these events were occurring before they even came into play in my life. If anything, they were just there to let me know what was happening.
Oh, I hope that answers your question. Okay, next question. What was the first time that you told people about your being stuck in time?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, after my plane crash in Sugar Brush Mountain, I went on an all night radio show, talk show, where like night owls like to listen to that show and just hear what people have to say. And so I told my experiences and my stories of being unstuck in time. And at first, people didn't understand, but one second. At first, people didn't understand, but I told them how I became unstuck in time in 1944, and that was when the Tralfamadorians actually took me on a trip to their home planet called Tralfamador. Interesting story.
Oh, wow, what an interesting revelation. You spoke of the Tralfamador. What were those again? How did they look, act, and how did they play a role in your story?
Well, basically, um, they were, I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to come up with the right words. They were, well, they were aliens, and throughout the story, they took me through journeys, and it seemed to last for a whole lifetime, but in reality, it was only like a millisecond on Earth. And they were shaped like upside down plungers with tentacles, and they had little hands on like the end of each tentacle, and their body was like a palm, and there was a big giant eye in their palm. It's pretty weird.
Wow, I don't think I can imagine something looking like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Billy, so far, this is actually a compelling story. It's very interesting. How could you relate to us your first time shift?
Ooh, the first time shift, that was actually a very traumatic experience because, of course, I didn't know what was going on. It was the very first time it ever happened to me. And so I'm going to tell you the story, like you asked. So the first time it happened was when I was left behind in the forest in the war. And I leaned down against this tree and I closed my eyes. And I began to go through a full blown swing of my life from birth to death. And the death experience, it was like a bright purple light. And my birth was just like a red light with this like comforting sound like of the womb or something like that. And so after that, my the swing stopped, and I found myself when I was a young boy at YMCA, and my father was trying to throw me into a pool. It was really random, but next thing you know, I was in 1965, 41 years old, and I was visiting my mother, who was sadly dying, and we had uh, who was sadly dying. We didn't have a conversation because, of course, she couldn't talk. And after that, from 1965, I went to 1958, where I was at my son's little league banquet, and then I find myself in the war. And after that, I just come back to real life like nothing never happened.
Wow, that's mind blowing. Tell us about what happened the night of your daughter's wedding.
Wow, that was overnight. Okay, so that night, of course, I couldn't sleep. I just had something. It was something weird. It was a weird feeling inside of me. And I just knew the Tralfalmadorians. I just knew they were coming for me. I had this sense, this feeling, and this urge. I know. And I heard the sound of like a melodious owl, and to a normal person, you might think that's what it was, but to me, it was the saucer. They were coming for me. So I went outside into the yard, and the saucer actually came and pulled me up into the spaceship, where they communicated with me. They didn't have voice boxes. They were just communicating like telepathically through their mind. And when I got inside of the saucer, it was just like a hole in the door where I all I saw was a big green eye, and they communicated to me through that way.
Wow. Well, that must have been amazing. What did the saucer look and sound like?
The saucer, it was about, I guess you could say, 100 feet in diameter, and it had portholes around its rim, and the light from the portholes was blinking bright purple, like just constantly pulsing. And it made this owl noise that I described earlier, like a comforting, melodious whoo sound. And the hatch, when it let down, the ladder had like the lights of a carnival Ferris wheel. Like it was like that.
Oh, okay. So, did you have another shift after that?
Well, yes, I did actually. I was in the boxcar and I was crossing Germany. Germany. It was a whole horrible ride because we were cramped inside of the car. We couldn't sleep. We had to either stand or lay down and sleep on top of people. And it was moving nearly 2 miles an hour. One day in the boxcar, actually, my friend Ronald Weary, he passed, and he actually blamed me for his death. And after reaching the prison camp, I actually had another time shift where I traveled to when I was an infant, and that was really random.
Okay, so we have our final question for today. Why do you think the Chelmaphodorians were part of your journey?
Well, actually, that's a good question because I don't even know the answer to this question. To this day, I'm not exactly sure why they were here. I know that they taught me their views on like death and humanly things like the theory of Darwinism and things like that. But they also showed me things about life that we overevaluate, like asking why to everything, like why this happens and why that happens. It just happens. That's just the way of the universe. And I believe we could all learn something from them, and it was just I've been on a great deal of journeys because of them.
Well, that's the end of our interview. That's the end of our interview. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
I
for
hope you
having
guys
me.
have a nice nap, and we're out.